Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, we're going to be checking out the latest release from one of my favorite micro brands, the Swiss watch company. And on the wrist today is their vintage-inspired field watch known as the Trench. And this color happens to be called the Trench Blue, but they're also going to be releasing a few different color options. So I recommend checking out their website next month when this watch is released. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description of this video. In terms of pricing, these watches come in at about $595 US, and it's fairly feature-rich for the price point. I will say this happens to be the thinnest mechanical watch that I featured on my channel, and the watch head is also made from grade 2 titanium, so it's super lightweight and compact on the wrist. Now I do really want to thank SWC for lending in this watch for the review, and I will be sending it back to them after this video concludes. So why don't we flip perspectives now, and you guys can actually take a close-up look at the Trench watch in the studio. So now that we're in the studio, we can take a closer look at this SWC Trench watch here. And I have to say, in the hand, this thing is feather light. I measured the total weight of this watch, including the supplied OEM leather strap, at 48 grams. So that's under 50 grams for Swiss mechanical watch guys, which is super impressive. In terms of other specifications, case diameter on this watch is 38.6 millimeters. Flipping to the side, lug to lug, so that's the wingspan between my thumbs here, comes in at 45.3 millimeters. Note the nice slope of the lugs and the use of drilled lug holes. Now the thickness is, or I should say thinness, is only 8.9 millimeters. That's from the bottom of a screw down caseback to the top of a box sapphire crystal, which does carry 16 layers of anti-reflective treatment on it. So you can see even under harsh studio lighting, you get very good legibility on this dial because of the way they do the AR treatment on the sapphire crystal. I'll also mention that between the lugs, this is a 20 millimeter spacing for the OEM leather. And it's a fairly nice leather strap too. You can see it's bolstered at the center, has an off-white stitch pattern down the side. If I open this up, you get a fairly large tang buckle that's just brushed, and then you get a fixed keeper and a floating keeper here. So pretty nice proportions and a pretty nice strap that also comes with quick release spring bars. And I'll just do a quick in-studio shot just to show you how this watch would wear on a 7.5-inch wrist. That is 19 centimeters in circumference if you use the metric system here. And you can just see how thin this watch sits. It would have no problem sliding under any cuff. And honestly, it disappears on the wrist. I do like the fact that you have a nice even 20 millimeter lug spacing if you want to swap out the factory strap for some other strap options as well. Alright, so let's talk about some of the design elements on the dial that makes this Trench watch a really nice modern take on a vintage military inspired type of timepiece. You can see that you do have a use of full Arabic numerals for all the hour markers. You even got that vintage open 6 that's there. What I really like, and it's kind of subtle too, is that the dial actually slopes downwards as you get to that printed on railway style minute track that's there. But to also help maintain the overall thinness of the watch, do note that the seconds hand as well as the minute hand, the tips of them are actually curved down towards the dial, and that does allow that boxed sapphire crystal to sit ever so slightly lower in towards the case. But you still get a lot of details and dimension to this watch due to the curved dial, those bent hands, and those heavily applied and printed on Arabic numerals for the hour markers. Now the handset is nice. It's got a rhodium and high polished finish to them. And then they're kind of just standard sword style hands. The hands and the printed indices themselves have a very much a high application. I think they use 20 layers of BL10 X1 grade superluminova. So legibility for this watch in low light or zero lighting conditions will not be an issue. You know, one thing to say about SWC is that their lume application has never really disappointed on any of their watches. Now you will note that under the trench printing above a 6 o'clock position, it does say it's a manual winder. This is done via the crown. It's a non-screw down crown, but because of the seals and gaskets, you're still getting 100 meters of water resistance. So in that neutral position, you can actually manually wind the movement, which in this case is a Sellita SW210. And they also regulate these movements to be fairly accurate within cost standards as well. So I think overall it's a good choice. There's really no go state position, so if you really just pull out the crown once, you can actually set accurately to any reference time. You can hack the seconds hand, and then you can adjust the time accurately, and then just push the crown back in, and you're good to go. Now with more compact watches, I'm always impressed by the level of finishing that can be achieved, and SWC does a great job on this case, given that it's Type 2 titanium, but they've also hardened it to about 1,000 Vickers, so that's 3 to 4 times still more scratch resistant than stainless steel. You can see you've got a nice polished transitional bevel that runs between the tops of the lugs and the side of the case profile, which is nicely brushed. The crown is signed with the SWC logo. There's some nice polishing on the tops of the conical bezel that's done right there. So that's my overview for this particular release from SWC. In terms of potential points for improvement, there's really not much I could really say for all the features you're getting at the price point. I would say that I would appreciate personally if this crown was a little bit wider, so it stuck out a little bit more, just so it's easier to grip. But I got really thick sausagey fingers, so really that's just a personal critique that's there. And I do have one smaller nitpick, and this can only really be seen at the macro level, and that is that at the level of a seconds hand or the post for where their hands are, it appears to be that there were some specks of dust that were there. So maybe just to clean up some of the QC or quality control checks before sending these watches out for production. But of course, this is a watch that's sub $600, and you really wouldn't notice this with the naked eye. But outside of that, I do want to thank SWC for lending in their trench field watch. I think it's a really good entry into their catalog, and they utilize a lot of their features that they do on other watches that continue to impress me, like the excellent anti-reflective treatment on the sapphire, outstanding lume, and very good finishing and case hardening techniques as well. So if you're in the market for a vintage inspired field watch that's sub $600 USD, definitely give this watch a look. I do think it's a good purchase. But as always, please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section of this video. And if you do enjoy the content, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel. It does help me out a ton. So that's going to do it for this video. And as always, I can't wait to catch you guys in the next one.